Hello and welcome. Thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel. Please make sure to give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you know when my next video is. Today we're going to use a few Pinkfresh Studio products. We're going to start with the hand-picked flowers. This is an awesome stamp set. It has some great sentiments in it. It's a big, large image. We're going to use the coordinating stencils as well as the coordinating dies. And I love that the dies have a couple dies for those larger sentiments that's in the stamp set. That's always a great bonus. And then we're going to use the floral backdrop cover plate as well. Cute, cute flower backdrop die plate there. We're going to start by stamping the large image from the hand-picked flowers. Sorry, my Misty's a little low here. I wasn't paying attention. We're going to prep the cardstock by using an anti-static powder tool. This one's from Rabbit Hole Designs. We're going to use the large image that's in this set. It's a great floral cluster. Going to stamp it with some Versamark. And when I use Versamark, and I'm going to use embossing powder with it, and I've used an anti-static powder tool, I always stamp it twice. So I'm going to stamp it this first time. I'm going to get a good image. I'm going to use my stamp press tool, and then I am going to take my image, and I'm going to clean it off. I just use my microfiber cloth here that I use for all of my stamp cleaning and cleaning of everything else. Gonna wipe off that powder that Versamark has picked up. Then I'm gonna ink it up again and double stamp it. This way I get a nice crisp embossed image once I add that powder and I heat set it. So I'm gonna press that down with my stamp tool again, and now I have a great image. I'm gonna clean that, and I'm gonna very carefully remove this from my Misty. With these larger stamps, be careful so you don't stretch them. I'm going to put that away, and then I'm going to grab my favorite gold embossing powder. This is from Brutus Monroe, and it's their gilded embossing powder. Such a beautiful gold. So this is a pretty large image, so I'm going to carefully make sure that I have embossing powder over my entire image. Once I'm sure I have it, I'm going to gently tap it off. I'm not going to tap too hard, just enough to get some of those loose strands of powder off of there. I'm going to pour this back into the container, screw that lid on tight so I don't accidentally spill it all over. I'm going to wipe off any that I got all over my work surface. I don't know, even though I sprinkle it in something, I always tend to get it everywhere. So I just give it a quick wipe off of my work surface so it's not everywhere. I'm going to take my heat tool, and now I'm going to heat it up, and I'm going to heat from the front and the back. And I do this really for an image like this. I'm doing it just to kind of minimize the warping on the cardstock. I don't know. I tend to always get a little bit of warping, but this helps to minimize it. So I'm going to make sure the whole image has turned all shiny. I'm going to set that aside. Now we're going to take that floral backdrop cover plate, and we're going to create a background panel. Taking an A2 piece of heavyweight cardstock here. This is Nino 110. Going to center this cover plate right in the center of that, tape it into place, and then I'm going to take it over and I'm going to run it through my Misty die cut machine. Going to carefully remove that tape, and I am going to set this cute, no, I'm not. I am actually going to take a craft pick, and I'm going to poke out those little holes that are in the middle of those flowers. Sorry, I almost forgot about this. You can leave them in. You can poke them out. This will give you a couple different looks with this cover plate. I just happen to want to see through this cardstock because we're going to raise it up with some foam tape. So next we're going to do our stenciling. I'm going to use my Wendy Vecchi Make Art Station. This is my go-to for stenciling. I think we all have our preferences, and this is mine. I just move my magnets around as I need to. I'm going to pick my inks from my Pinkfresh Studio ink swatches here, decide which colors I want to use, and I am going to start with the beautiful Summer Shower. Such a beautiful blue. I love this blue color family that they have here. They're so pretty. I'm using my mini ink blending tools from Altenew for my stenciling. And for the next group of flowers, we're going to use Coral Reef, which I think is a lot of people's favorite Pinkfresh Studio ink color. Such a beautiful, beautiful pinky orange corally color. And we're going to add a little bit of detail and a few other darker blooms here using Passion Reef. Going to ink blend those all on there. And then we're going to go to our next layer, which is the detail of the blue flowers. And Pinkfresh has all of their stencils labeled up in the upper left-hand corner. And I'm going to get those in place. And then I'm going to reach for a Seaside for those details of these blue flowers. Then we're going to do the leaves, and I'm going to use Aquamarine. Only going to use one color. I'm going to start by blending it a little lighter. So go in with a little lighter hand, and then I'm going to go in with a little heavier hand at the base of my leaves and on my stems, just for a little added dimension. Going to add that last layer of stencils for the leaves and stems. Do the same thing, start light, add that dark at the base. Going to take all my stencils, wash them off, put them aside to dry so I don't get ink on anything I don't want to. Clean up my surface here. And then we're going to create our sentiment. Going to use the You Are So Great sentiment from the stamp set. Going to stamp it on black and prep that black cardstock with the anti-static powder tool from Rabbit Hole Designs. And again, going to stamp it twice with the Versamark. Stamp it once, wipe it off, ink it up again with the Versamark, stamp it a second time. I'm going to reach for that Brutus Monroe Gilded because I want it to be embossed in the same color as my floral image. So I'm going to pour that over my sentiment, tap off any extra, see if I have any strays, pour that back in the container and put that aside. Going to give my work surface a quick swipe for any stray little pieces of embossing powder. And then I'm going to heat that up, and I'm going to heat it up again from the front and the back. I tend to like to really heat from the back on my sentiments. It gives a nice smooth image, but sometimes, especially when I'm filming, I seem to be in a hurry, so I do both. And I'm going to wipe off that anti-static powder from that black cardstock so you can't see it. Going to use the coordinating die, and I'm going to run this through my mini blossom from Altenew. He just sits on my desk. He's super cute, super efficient, and works great. And I reach for him for all of my small dies. I'm going to cut the sentiment out plus two other layers here because we're going to layer those up for dimension. You can stack your cardstock. You could use little tiny pieces of foam tape if you want to, but I find especially on an image like this, just stacking them up, gluing them together with some liquid adhesive works best. I'm using Barely Arts Precision glue here. It's my go-to glue. Put a little weight on it for it to dry, and next we're going to cut out that big background floral image. Going to run it through my Gemini, and I'm going to bring it back and put my dies away so I don't lose them because I have a tendency to do that. Still need to buy a magnet for my desk. I've heard of magnet bowls. Might get one of those. So I'm going to use my craft pick again and pick out any of those little inner pieces. Next, I'm taking that floral backdrop panel and we're going to trim it down, and I want a 1/4 inch border all the way around, so I am trimming it down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I take a 1/4 inch off of each side so that the image is centered properly. I'm going to use a piece of Spellbinders Raindrop cardstock. Going to cut it down into an A2 panel here. If I had some pre-made card bases, I would just use this as a card base as well. I just didn't have any pre-made, so I just cut down an A2 panel. And then we're going to eventually glue this on there. But first, I believe we're going to grab some foam tape. And we're going to use 2 different types of foam tape here. We're going to start by using just this 3M foam tape, and that's what it's a little wider. And I'm going to use that on my floral image here, and I'm just going to cut all my little pieces and put it behind. It would have probably been easier just to cut 2 or 3 extra of the images using the die cut to add dimension. I didn't do that, so I just grabbed some foam tape. Whatever you prefer to do works. I just want some dimension here. I would like to say I have a go-to, but I do both. Use foam tape, stack my cardstock. I don't know. I guess it's however I'm feeling that day. So I'm going to take off all the release paper and I've mounted it to that background panel. Now I'm going to use a little thinner, and when I mean thinner, I mean less wide, not thickness. I'm using the Altenew foam tape here because it fits in between those little holes. The 3M is too wide. So this works perfect. I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to take the release paper off of all those little pieces. And then I'm going to adhere that to the center of this Raindrop cardstock panel. And sorry, you're going to see my head here as I try to make sure I get it in the center of that. I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to add our little "You Are So Great" sentiment. Going to add plenty of that on there. I'm using some reverse tweezers to hold that and get that in place. Press it down. And then I'm going to grab the Pinkfresh Studio Jewels Mix. Love their Jewels Mix. I love it that they're in clear containers. They're all bunched together, and I can just look at it and kind of decide what I'm wanting to use. So here I grab 2 different blues, aquas, to decide which one I want to use. I choose to use the more aqua color here. I poured some out in the lid. Gonna use a Trinity Stamps pickup tool here. Place some around, kind of just deciding where I want them. I do try to keep my embellishments to odd numbers. They say it's more pleasing to the eye. It doesn't always happen, but it looks like I did here. And once I have them in place, I'm going to pour back my extra, put my jewel mix away, and then I'm going to glue these little embellishments in place. I use a different adhesive for my embellishments. I use the Ranger multi-medium matte adhesive. It dries nice and matte, so if any squishes out from underneath your embellishments, I like that. You really can't see it, so that's what I use for my embellishments. Going to glue those in place. Put that away, and then I'm going to grab a top fold card base here and glue my card panel on there using some liquid adhesive. Make sure it's nice and even. Give it a good press down. I would normally, yes, set something heavy on this while it dries. And then I'm going to take a Nuvo shimmer pen, the Aqua shimmer pen, and I'm going to add that to everything that I ink blended with the Aquamarine. So all the leaves, all the stems are going to get a nice little layer of shimmer using this shimmer pen. I love This pen, I reach for it all the time. It's just a great little finishing touch to the card. Gives this card a little bit more shine. Works perfect on those leaves. So you can see it here. And this is my finished card. Thank you so much for stopping by, and can't wait to see you next time.